Well, hi everybody. It's me, Leticia, and I'm here by myself. So tonight's show, instead of being called House Hunters, should be called Free for All. If you're when you're signing on, there's going to be a first comment up there. Is a link to StreamYard. So if any of you want to join me on air, all you need is a phone that has a camera or a computer that has a camera. Use that link and you can sign in and be my co-host because Jen bailed and my fill-in co-host, John Curley, seems to not have signed on. So he must be having a little bit of a problem. Hi, Aunt Santa. Good to have you here. And we have Ralph with us. Hiya, Ralph. How you doing? And my mommy is here. Oh, thank you, Mom. Well, Mom, you should sign in and become my co-host tonight. So it has been some hell of a week. I'll tell you the backstory. I have laryngitis, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. So if you can, let me know, and I'll try and speak up. I don't know if I can. Jen is in Florida, in beautiful Boca Raton with my grandson, Ty, and she is looking at colleges. So they're at Lynn University right now, and she realized that she had a dinner appointment and couldn't sign on. So I was furiously looking for a co-host for tonight. Yes, Ralph, it's you and me. You could jump on. Just go right in there and jump right on, and you can be my co-host tonight. Any rate, so here I am, and hopefully John Curley will jump in at some point in time. But as I said, there's a link at the top. If you want to join, come on. We can have as many people as we want. I'm here tonight. Oh, good, Bobby. Couldn't forgive myself. I missed 2 weeks in a row. You guys are the greatest. Well, today it's Guy. It's just me. But as I said, Bobby, jump in on the link at StreamYard if you want. You have a phone with the camera, and you could be my co-host tonight. But at any rate, it's way past 7 o'clock, so it's time for
a half inch means a lot sometimes.
This pumpkin latte sucks, and I want to speak to your manager.
How much is the economy today? Oh, it's that much.
Objection, hearsay. Objection, leading. Objection, hearsay.
Where is that woman when Biden speaks?
And the OG is here. It's Lucille. Thanks, Lucille, for joining. Oh, thank you very much. I'm getting pep talks from my aunt. Thank you so much. Okay. The link is all the way up at the top of the first comments. But let me see if I can put it here again. Control V, I can, and there we go. So that's the link. If you want to join, you need a phone, and your phone has to be facing you, and or a computer with a camera, and you could be my co-host. But at any rate, has everybody heard that they want to get rid of our gas ovens? The Biden administration has decided that gas ovens are harmful to the environment, and they want everybody to have electric ovens. And going forward, they want only electric appliances in homes. And again, they say that it's dangerous to our health to have gas ovens. Now, I'm a cook, and I can tell you right now, in South Carolina, all I have is electric, and I can't cook for beans on the electric oven, but I love gas ranges, and most restaurants have gas ranges. As a matter of fact, I don't know any that doesn't have a gas range. But I want to propose to the Biden administration that the danger is not gas ovens. The danger is millennials cooking. And here's our first clip to demonstrate that.
This young woman is live streaming herself cooking, but it's not going so well. She's causing so much smoke, she sets off the fire alarm in her building. But things are about to get a lot worse. Now she's in big trouble.
Oh, God. I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do.
She runs out of her apartment screaming for help.
Help! Help! I don't have a fire extinguisher.
I just freaked out. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Kelly Jane Carone tells me she was making a steak for her birthday and live streaming on Twitch when it all went wrong. Get this, 26-year-old Kelly has a degree in mechanical engineering.
I cracked myself up. Mechanical engineering. This is crazy. So at any rate, we have Bobby. Bobby, you got to tilt the camera down a little bit and so we can see your handsome face. There's Bobby. Oh, Bobby is my co-host.
How are you doing, Leticia?
I'm doing great, Bobby. How are you?
I am loving it. Loving life.
Well, thanks for co-hosting with me. I don't know if you got to see that last clip because you were signing on, but we had a mechanical engineer that tried to put out a grease fire with water.
No, you're supposed to use a lid for that. No water.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Well, I am countering Biden's missive that gas is no good for the environment. And I'm saying that the problem is the millennials actually cooking on stoves or doing anything these days. That's the truth.
Honestly, the problem with that is that Biden's got enough gas for everybody.
Very good. Very good. Well, say hello to Mickey Petrides, Bobby.
Hello, Mickey.
My aunt says she agrees he's an absolute idiot. Let's see. My mother says she went to moron school, which she did. Yeah. Martin Lee, no gas, no more, huh? She's not cooking. She's a clowness. Agreed. Okay. And we're getting kudos for you for being brave enough to co-host with me, Bobby.
Yeah, especially the way I look. I mean, I don't have a face for television, to tell you the truth.
You're doing just fine. Listen, you're very brave to get on this program.
I like the show. I discovered you guys accidentally, and I turned around and watched one video of yours and said, heck, I got to get notifications when they're on live.
Well, thank you. So Bobby, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in upstate New York. I know you guys are down there in Staten Island. I live in Clinton, and well, I don't know really what to say. I used to be a construction worker. I had a stroke, and I'm partially paralyzed on my right side now.
Oh.
Went to school for law, as I stated before, and right now I'm running an online store, trying to get extra money that way, because doing SSI and stuff like that, it's really not enough to live on.
Well, tell us, plug your store. What's your store?
www.dutcherenterprises.com.
Okay, and what do you sell?
Pretty much workout gear, pet supplies, jewelry, cologne, watches, stuff. Just really what do they call spurt buys, stuff that you really don't need but kind of want.
Okay, all right. Well, it's great to see that you remade yourself. You had an adversity, and you pulled your stuff together, and you remade yourself and started your own small business. And that's the spirit of America, right, Bobby? I mean, that's what we do as Americans.
Well, I worked all my life, and in a position now where I can't work, so it really bothers me that I'm not able to, and I have to live off the government, and I really don't like that.
Well,
I mean, I've been working since I was 8 years old, could carry brick and block for my dad. So I gotta real good work ethic.
Well, there you go. So everybody's got to go to Bobby's store and go buy workout gear and pet supplies. I know I'm gonna buy some pet supplies from you, definitely, Bobby. Let's see who else we have. We have Lynn is with us tonight, and Gloria is with us, and let's see who else we have. Our other co-host is joining us. I'm going to bring him on to the screen now. We're going to have 3 of us. Okay. John, there you go. John, when you didn't show up, Bobby jumped in your place.
Oh.
Hey, hello, John.
Bobby.
Sorry, Spectrum. I had to unplug the Wi-Fi and plug it back in again.
No problem.
I got to do that at least once a month.
Okay. Let's see. All right, let's go back to our regularly scheduled broadcast here. First, let me get these comments off, and then we can move forward. So, John,
Yes, ma'am.
good to have you with us. Thank you for co-hosting with me and Bobby. So, here is John's books, right?
Yes, books.
John is the author of Bonds, and now he's coming out with Sorrows and Harbingers. I think that you all should go to. John, I forgot the name of it.
My publishing house is Rough Edges Press. I have the great honor of being published with people like Andrew Vax and Mickey Spillane, James Reesner, and guys like that. And I believe they have a deal exclusively with Amazon, at least initially. And they're reissuing Bonds, which I published a few years ago. And they are, what we've done is we've added an unpublished short story that was added to the book for people that may have bought the first book. And 3 weeks after, on February 7th, the first sequel, Sorrows, book 2 in the series, is out. And then 3 weeks after that, Harbingers, the third book, is out. I guess they feel the public has to be saturated with me. So,
well, I don't think that's a bad idea. Ladies, what do you think? I think saturating the public with John Curley is a great thing. So everybody go to Rough Edges Press and do your pre-ordering. But John, before we move on with the show, I wanted to ask you, tell us a little bit about the whole saga, the trilogy, I guess, right? So tell us the premise of the books.
Well, they're crime fiction. They're based in Staten Island in New York City. The genre is crime fiction, but it focuses on crimes against children. And each book deals with it in different circumstances. The first book is basically you learn. I was arrogant enough to start out with the idea of writing a series. That is actually arrogant because you for that to work, people have to like the first book. So you learn a little bit about the private investigator, and I do the best I can to keep it real. Most of what you read in the first 100 pages has happened before. The deal at the district attorney, a process service that occurs at the hospital, a fight in a bar. Most of it is real, and I give people an idea of what the system is like, and I give them an idea what the role of a private investigator like myself is, and it progresses from there. The second book picks up with the character after he's been shot and wounded, and unlike most television shows or books, Creed, the character, he was grievously injured. It took months and months of rehabilitation. He also lost someone that he loved. His head is completely screwed up, and he's trying to get a handle on things. And he gets drawn into politics, something we're all so fond of. And he basically, at the same time, and this is another thing that I usually do, there's no PI I know of that's working on one case right now. It doesn't work like that. Not if you want to put food on the table. So he's handling all of his normal work. He has his partner, his crew of guys, and he's dealing with an old case and a very sadistic, evil woman who's attacking his client, and has actually, as a sort of a Hail Mary, because her case is going south, put PIs on Creed himself. And that's actually happened before. I've been followed before. And I try to portray that as genuine, at least what happens with children. Both political parties frequently lay claim to the cause of child protection. Nothing could be further from the truth. Both the left and the right have screwed children royally since they've been doing this. They rarely do any good. And, very often you'll find that many of the same predators are in the political parties. And that's on both sides, by the way. When people on the left start pointing at Denny Hastert, the guy that was caught, I remind them, well, go back to about 1980 with Eugene Gold, the guy that prosecuted Son of Sam, who was arrested in a Midwestern state for sexually abusing the 13-year-old daughter of a political constituent out there, and then move forward. It's absurd to try to portray the freaks that hurt children as being politically motivated. And I try to be fair with that. In other words, there are bad people on all sides. And that's pretty much the view that I have, especially when it comes to child protection. There are bad people on all sides. And the third book, I say I try to keep it real, yet the third book is Creed versus a devil worship cult, because it was, I don't know, I just felt it was the thing to do. And that is actually a real part of the subject. I'm familiar with it. I've researched it significantly and updated my research. And, true satanic crimes are actually very rare, extraordinarily rare. The few times that you will find it's what qualifies as a satanic crime, you'll find it's not people that believe in Satan. It's freaks that enjoy hurting children, and that's their rationale, the same rationale that a father from Pakistan might have when he does an honor killing because his daughter did something he didn't approve of.
Yeah.
It's a way of justifying what they do. The interesting thing about Satanism as it is, it's a Christian construct. The Catholic Church was vying with paganism. Nobody was running around worshiping Lucifer. They had pagan gods, and they quantified it as devil worship. So most of the people there are people that honestly believe in paganism and different offshoots of it as a religion, and they see the people that practice Satanism as the meth head kid from high school who failed out in senior year, who's listening to Iron Maiden and killing squirrels. They actually take great offense at it. And the premise of the third book is based on a conversation that I had with Andrew Vax a while back. And what we were discussing was the fact that you can have a child who is abused in a situation that is horrifying, even for people that are used to it. And that child will grow up as what we would call a transcender and dedicate themselves to protecting other children. You'll also have people that are horrifically abused who will become just like the abuser. The percentage is actually small, but enough happens so that it continues to propagate itself. And the mystery is, why does it happen that some children will grow up and save children? They'll be screwed up. Most children of The Secret, most people who've been horrifically abused have hang-ups, and they hurt themselves more often than anything else. Yet some of them will try to shield children and others will try to hurt them. And we had it very long. And the thing about that is there's no magic formula. And I postulated the idea to him, it may be the deciding factor that the child that grows up and transcends abuse of that type, maybe despite the abuse, there was someone in their life to love them and teach them to be human, and they made up for it. At some point, whatever action the abused child as an adult takes is choice. It's, you can't take a kid, a 16-year-old that, a normal 16-year-old, I'm sure we all know, is a moron. Their moral compass isn't developed yet. They do really dumb things, but they're 16. They're supposed to do that. If you take a child that has been abused since birth at 16, you can't expect that child at 16 with that abuse to be able to make rational moral decisions. Yeah. So when you have a child that commits a crime, punishment should be a factor of it often, but you should also make an effort to save that child. I'm not some gooey liberal that's saying, well, let them go. No, if they hurt somebody, they have to be punished. They have to understand you can't do that, but you can't expect a 16-year-old that was abused like that. A typical example of that is, I'm sure you both saw the movie The Bad Seed at least once or heard of it. Okay. If you see the movie The Bad Seed, you walk away terrified that, oh my God, that kid is just evil, but if you read the book, the actual case, you had a child who was reared by a prostitute who began taking that child to bed with her tricks from the age of 2 on. And when she was 10 or 11, she acted out in the same way that she was being abused and greatly, to everybody's sorrow, killed another child.
Yeah.
That's not a 30-year-old hurting a kid and filming it to make money. That's a kid that's been abused. Now, if there was a girl out west, I had these wonderful father's rights guys telling me about this. She was 16. She was being sold as a sex slave, and at some point she lost it and she blew the brains out of the John that paid to have sex with her. And they're all screaming for life in prison for this 16-year-old who was sold into this life when she was 2 or 3 or something like that. And then she couldn't handle it anymore and killed the guy that paid to rape her.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing as the guy that kills his grandmother for the insurance money or sells coke. It's is punishment something that should be done? Probably, but not trying to save that child is making the system fail the child twice. And I watch Tucker Carlson frequently, and about 2 years ago, you had an enlightened Republican politician from California. And his thing was when child prostitutes, and that's the wrong term, by the way. Child prostitute implies consent. Child can't legally give consent. It is a prostituted child. But his brilliant idea was arrest them so that they'll testify against their pimps. Now, as a PI who's been to night court, I can tell you in the history of the U.S. legal system, the number of hookers who have testified against their pimps is about 0. They're there with a bond and a lawyer, and they're perpetrating the lie they've been telling them. You see, I'm the only one that loves you.
That's it. They look at their...
I'm listening to this idiot. Now, to be fair to Republicans, the moron Democrats wanted to just let them go. And a friend I was watching the show with, as I was throwing things at the television screen, said, well, what would you do? Well, that's a pretty simple answer. You have somebody there who's trained to deal with kids like that and take them into protective custody. But Jesus Christ, don't arrest them.
Yeah.
It's so in the third book, I apologize for going off on a tangent. I tell the story of 2 brothers. They're both raised by these sadistic, horrific people who film child pornography and supposedly worship the devil. One of them grows up to be a very damaged but good human being, and the other one grows up to be a monster. And that's what I do with the book, is explore that subject. And hopefully I'll keep everybody entertained as well, and they'll enjoy the story. I do try to keep it real. I could tell you a real quick story about this number 2. My editor at the time was James Reesner, and great guy. Wrote 400 novels, the Lone Ranger series, Walker, Texas Ranger. Now the guy's a legend as a writer, and it was a real privilege to have him as my editor. And I said, James, I want to keep it real. I don't want to, if the PI is like Mike Hammer or Spencer, he kills a guy every book. It doesn't matter if you have it on video and 100 witnesses, they are going to ride him out of New York on a rail. If a good cop does a shoot, he's desked, and he said, well, you could do that, but you have to have something really intense. So I'm searching my memory, and okay. Way back in that decade, the 80s, where we all had so much fun.
I love the 80s.
I decide I want to be a PI, 1987-ish, around there. And a few years later, I'm working for a company. I'm young. I'm in my early 20s. And the company paid me a whopping $200 a week. So I wasn't allowed to work outside of the company, though, but I used to bounce in bars. And this guy I knew, who was an ex-cop, called me and said, hey, you want to make $100, $100 in 1988? It's a lot of money. I said, yeah. He said, well, this woman, really nice woman, her husband beat her up. She's terrified. Go sit with her. And tomorrow morning, her brother's going to pick her up and take her out of the state. Yes, okay. Now, most security people, even to this day, take an 8-hour course for the state so the state can make $35. But very few people are trained. The guy used me because I used to fight. I was big. I was strong. And I could handle myself. But I was not what you would call a security professional. Otherwise, as I was bebopping into this house, very nice house with my overnight bag, I might have looked up and down the block, and I might have seen the husband sitting in the car watching me go into his house with the overnight bag.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So, and by the way, I got this, I was watching a movie when this all came together, a great movie with Rod Taylor and William Smith called Darker Than Amber. And there's this horrifically brutal fight in this movie, which was made in 1970. And I'm watching it and I'm going, wow, and I rewind it and damn, that looks real. Well, it turns out it was real. The very first take, Taylor slips and breaks William Smith's nose. And these are two big, strong guys. The take after that, Smith pays him back by busting 3 of Taylor's ribs. And every time the director yelled cut, the film crew literally had to rip these two guys off of each other. So that brings to mind this incident that occurs with me. And I'm sitting there on this woman's couch, and we're chatting, having a very nice conversation. She had a black eye. I felt bad for her. The husband was a self-made millionaire kind of guy, but he grew up ghetto. And he was about 6'3", 6'4". He was a gym rat, and he was immensely strong. And I knew that immediately as the front door exploded. Flew off the hinges, split in half. And he's in the door, and I'm like, wait. And he's like, I knew you were fucking somebody. And so no, that's not what this is. And then, that's it. I'm yelling at her, it's funny now. But I haven't talked to people about this in 30 years. I'm yelling at her to go for cover. She runs into the bedroom and puts stuff up against the door, and me and him are going at it. And just like boxers, if they're smart, don't use white towels at the cornerman. Big mistake if you're in the ring and you're a cornerman and you're using a white towel for your fighter, because he's going to look at that and it's going to be turning red and it's going to freak him out. I had a white dress shirt on.
Uh-oh.
I looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. I mean, I'm hitting him with things that I've hurt people with before. And he's at one point, he almost choked me unconscious. At one point, I tried to take his eye. He literally picked me up and threw me through a wooden door. And he ran for the bedroom door, and I managed to get to him after that. And I went to work on his kidneys a little bit. And by the time the cops got there, I'm lying on the floor and I'm looking up at the ceiling and I'm wondering, how did we get blood on the ceiling? And I tried to, and the woman starts screaming, he's my security guy. And the cops sat me up and I fell over, and the cops said, he's like, you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And I got blood everywhere. My nose is busted. I got a nice cut over my eye. 2 of my ribs are broken. It was an experience. So I wrote that.
I read that.
Yeah, I know you read that.
That was an amazing.
I just tried to change it up a little so it was for 2 different characters. But in the book, again, here's a guy, it takes him 10 minutes to get in the back door of his office because he just took this beating from this guy. Yeah. And even if it's the kind of thing that even if you win, you don't. Yeah. And it's funny now. It was not funny then. And I lost my job with the other company, rightfully so, because I couldn't go to work for 3 days. I had no sick days, but I couldn't go into work looking like that. Yeah. So I do what I can, and I have people like my friend Leticia read it. And I also am fortunate enough that I have a group of guys that we're kind of like a loosely formed brotherhood, and we all have worked in violent professions. And I sent it out to about a dozen of them, and they all wrote me back, and all of them were like, when did that fucking happen to you? It's like, it was a long time ago, and it was, so what I do with the books is I try to give people an understanding of that, but that's something that I will never forget. I know the man died. I mean, I was barely 21, I think, and he was into his late 40s at the time, in the 80s. And I used to actually once in a while do a database search to see where he was living so I wouldn't run into him. He died around 2014, and I'm never happy that fuck him. I'm not taking pleasure in the fact that someone died, but at least I know round 2 is not going to happen for a really long time at this point. So I do the best I can to keep it real. And if I can make people understand what happens with children in the system and entertain them at the same time, then I've done a good job. And,
all right, Jen, so I'm going to stop you there because you got a lot of comments and we got some questions too. Let's see. Many rich people, to include people in power, become bored. They begin to wander off something that is sexually new and thus switch to children. They cover their perversion well. Is that what?
Well, I would object to that slightly.
Okay.
Look, I could be drunk. All right. I could have done drugs. I'm not going to fuck a kid.
Yeah.
You have to have something wrong with you to want to do that to a child.
Right.
And almost all the time, a big problem with the conservatives, pedophilia is not an orientation. Well, yeah, it is. That means the guy's gratified, or the girl is gratified by raping a child. Right. That is a vile, foul, artificial orientation that was raped into a child, but it is an orientation. You have to understand the enemy to beat him, which is why I'm a huge freedom of speech guy.
Yeah.
NAMBLA, the North American Man Boy Love It actual place, used to have their monthly meetings at the main branch of the New York Public Library. And at the time when this was found out, there was a huge outrage about it. And they interviewed my friend Andrew Vax about it. Now, Andrew was known for his hatred of Predator and his dedication of his entire life towards saving children. And they said, don't you think they should be thrown out? And he said, no. Oh, no. I want them to say It is an act of love, because 99 out of 100 people are going to listen to that and go, what?
Yeah.
I want them to have their meeting here at the public library the first Monday of every month. And it'd be great if the cops were out here writing down license plates. I don't want them underground. I want them to speak. That's what, you have to get to know your enemy.
Right.
But nobody's just going to rape a child out of boredom. They are going to rape a child because they're freaks. And these people know that they're hurting children. They just don't care. They're sociopaths.
Right.
Fortunately, not every sociopath is a predatory pedophile. And by the way, if I must make that point, we use the term predatory pedophile because often people are raped as children and they become sexualized early. And the idea of having sex with a child is arousing to them. But some of those people will seek help and they despise themselves. That was portrayed really well in Ray Donovan with Ray's brother, I think.
Yeah.
But that's a predatory pedophile acts on it. And until they act on it, it's a thought crime, which is something we have to be really careful of. We don't want to throw due process out. We don't want to arrest people for thought crimes.
Right.
But what happens between two adults or three, going back to my youth.
You got Bobby. Bobby, hold on a second. Bobby, I had to turn your mic off because I was getting feedback. So I don't know if you have earplugs that you could put in. But hold on a second. Let me turn your mic back on so you can say something. Go ahead, Bobby.
I was watching Rumble at the same time. That's why you were getting the feedback. I got it muted.
Okay, so then I'll keep your microphone on mute. All right, John.
Well,
Martin
my
Lee
point, though, if I may finish, Leticia,
Yes,
is what happens between consenting adults is no one's business. A homosexual is not a pedophile. Okay? A pedophile is someone that, regardless of the sex of the child, has sexual urges for children, and a predatory pedophile acts on that. What happens between an adult and a child, by contrast, is everyone's business, not what happens between consenting adults. Thank you for letting me finish that.
Perfect. All right, Martin Lee wants to know, how do you feel about the 6-year-old who shot his teacher in Virginia? Should he be punished?
I don't know, honestly, Joshua, enough about that to comment. I'd have to, I know that the incident occurred. I don't know enough about it. It would require a lot of investigation. I couldn't really honestly tell you about what I personally felt should be done in that incident.
I think it's amazing to me that, well, they didn't say whether the gun was accidentally fired. They said that he actually shot her. So I'm wondering if that teacher, if he was just angry, or if there was something deeper, or if that teacher did something. Martin's saying it was an intentional shooting. I mean, so what do you do with a kid like that at that age?
Well, you have to, first of all, obviously you need competent psychiatrists to look at this child and know what it is that happened. But I think most people are going to agree a 6-year-old doesn't have the capability of understanding death and what's going to happen when you pull the trigger. I'm a big Second Amendment guy, by the way. Martin Lee, they will go after the police and the NRA, not the real perpetrators. Yes, that is absolutely. How did a 6-year-old get a firearm and bring it to a school is got to be the priority as far as finding out what the hell's going on there. I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so let's now everybody again. We have Bonds, Sorrows, and Harbinger. Pre-order. You can get Bonds now on Amazon or on Rough Edges Press. You can pre-order Sorrows and Harbinger, and I have read them, and they are fantastic. They are quick reads. You will just keep on thumbing through. You need to make sure you get an audio book, John.
I hope that Mike Bray, the owner of the publishing house, is listening. Mike, Leticia's a very wise woman.
Yeah.
If I may address Martin, I don't, like I said, I don't know about the incident, but if you find me on Facebook and send me a friend request, when I look into it, I would be happy to answer any questions if you wanted to know my opinion on it.
Okay. All right. So let's, we've got a lot of show to cover and only 20 minutes to do it. So I'm going to show you guys some clips and I want some reaction. So, the Fauci Award today goes to El Paso, Texas, who managed to sanitize the streets ahead of Biden's visit. Watch.
The Fauci Award for Gullible People.
That's incredible.
How do you bring the president to the border? We're getting feedback from you, Bobby. How do you bring the president to the border and clean up the streets like that? The first shots were December, and then the other shots were January 7th. And that's what kind of, I mean, I'm sure that the Secret Service couldn't have the people on the streets with the president passing by. But as we saw, he didn't even go into the streets. He went on the tarmac, and that's all he did.
Well, look, the only reason why he went to the border is because he's going to run for a second term. I mean, look, guys, if you voted for him, you have to, I mean, come on. How many, Jesus, what else, what can you say about this guy? I mean, he created the problem at the border, and then he shows up I don't. You know, Leticia, you know, I did some research into what was going on at the border. We have children that are being kidnapped from Mexico. We have a virtual war going on between the cartels and the Mexican government that's eventually going to spill out into the U.S. I have met people who have found the bodies of women and children days apart for weeks and weeks at the border. He created the problem. And I mean, look, if you voted for him, look, we all got to start talking again, and we all got to be friends, and not be friends. We got to be civil, and we got to reach an understanding. But if we can't do that until you at least say to yourself, I made a mistake. I mean, you know, something's got to be done. You have to admit that this guy creates the problem. He goes there, they scrub the border, and now he looks like and people are going to say he's doing something about it.
Yeah, well, here's what he's doing about it. Bobby, if you want to say something, just give me a high sign. I'll unmute you. This way we don't get feedback. I'm going to show you this clip about what he plans to do. Oh, yes? Hold on. He wants to say something. Bobby wants to jump in.
Yeah, I muted my Rumble, so you're not going to get the feedback no more. So you ain't got to mute me no more. No more feedback. And, you know, those are the most fearsome words to a conservative is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that, run. And that's all I got to say.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to play our next clip. Our next clip is by.
Surrounded by border agents, President Biden walked along the fence separating the U.S. and Mexico. It's his first trip to the border since taking office. Moments after stepping onto a Texas tarmac, President Biden was handed a letter by the state's Republican governor, Greg Abbott.
It is stunning and astonishing and outrageous that this is his first time down here.
Last week, under mounting pressure from both Republicans and Democrats, the president announced new legal pathways to citizenship for migrants from Haiti, Cuba, and Nicaragua, while ramping up enforcement at the border.
Those changes will probably do nothing more than entice more illegal immigration.
Before taking off for Texas, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said Abbott was refusing to cooperate with the federal government.
We cannot have the rights and the needs of individuals who are seeking humanitarian relief in the United States be exploited for political purposes.
He should have a condom on top of his head. I can't. I mean, how people are going to defend them? The worst part about this is people are going. Well, you know, he's there. Okay, the guy, you can tell from the way he's walking. He's not even on this planet. I don't. But you know what? There's no mean tweets. You gotta. I think Robert's.
Bobby, we're still getting feedback from you for some reason.
Oh, it must be my phone just too close to the stand then. Yeah, they have to drug him up before they parade him out there to see people, so you at least act halfway normal. Otherwise, he'd be losing it, Mr. Dementia there, you know.
Yeah, and Joshua was 100% correct about the cartels using children as mules for guns, and people are also kidnapping them from Mexico because they get greater benefits if they come here as a family. There's a lot of horrible things going on there.
Yeah, there really is. All right, so you know, do nothing Biden. We find out today that in his University of Penn, the Penn Biden Center, the think tank, they found classified and top secret documents in the Penn Center, and they found them prior to the midterm elections, but nobody bothered to tell us until now. Here's a clip on the nightly news of them kind of trying to put it under the rug.
CBS News has learned that classified documents belonging to President Biden from his time as vice president were discovered at the Penn Biden Center, a policy research center here in Washington, D.C. This, of course, follows the fallout over former President Trump's possession of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, which the FBI seized this summer. So for more on this, we have CBS News correspondent Adriana Diaz joining me now. Adriana, what a story. Tell us more.
Caitlin, this is exclusive CBS News reporting. We have learned 3 sources have confirmed to us that classified documents were located at the Biden Center. Now, this is a think tank. It is a foreign policy research institute here in Washington.
Is the White House responding yet, or are they deferring to their attorneys?
The White House has spoken to us. We had multiple requests for comment from the White House, and we did receive a statement that just came in from the White House where they explain how this all happened. And they basically give us the timeline, the tick-tock of where these documents were found, what happened from there, which I just walked you through. And they also told us that the National Archives retrieved the documents the day after they were found. So this went quickly. And note that this happened on November 2nd. That's before the midterm election.
So they raid Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago with guns pointed and sirens going.
No, they raided Trump's house so Biden could get his wife's underwear drawer or something like that.
I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, this is just it is hypocrisy at its worst. Chris Cuddy, I'm impressed that he walked down the steps and didn't trip down the steps. As for location cleanup, just feed him some ice cream or something. He wouldn't notice the messed up streets at all. You're absolutely right. And Ralph says the new Watergate and the agent will get in trouble for finding these documents. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely true.
Except nothing's going to come of it. Biden has complete control over the Justice Department.
Yep.
Justice Department is like military intelligence. It's a contradiction in terms.
All right, so the Republicans took over the House, and I'm going to show you a little clip from our own New York Congressperson, Elise Stefanik, to show you what the Republicans are doing day one. No, I'm not.
Yesterday, we passed the most member-driven and transparent rules package in history and finally ended Democrats' authoritarian reign on our nation's capital. We restored and fully opened the People's House. Our first orders of legislative business have been exactly what we promised to the American people. We promised on day one to repeal Joe Biden's army of 87,000 new IRS agents, and yesterday we did just that. Today, we will counter the Chinese Communist Party with our Select Committee on China. We will vote to protect every American's constitutional rights with the new Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government. We will also vote to stop the Biden administration from selling our strategic petroleum reserves to China. And of course, this week, as thousands prepare to stand for life in our nation's capital next week, we will continue to hold the line and protect the most vulnerable among us by bringing the Born Alive Survivors Protection Bill to the floor. And we are just getting started. House Republicans are unified and united in our effort to implement our commitment to America to save this country.
They're getting rid of the IRS agents, so that's finally, they're moving in the right direction.
I'd like to make a comment about that. I once, during a routine investigation, came across some people that were funding it might sound like a novel, but it's the truth. I came across people that were funding ISIS-type groups over in the Middle East. And my client was wealthy. I gave about 4 inch. He hired an extremely high-powered, exceptional attorney in Washington to act as the intermediary, and we gave the government about 4 inches worth of paper, everything that they could ever want on a platter. And nothing happened. And I have watched people like a friend in a divorce case get persecuted for nonsense. It's Justice Department. I think. Did you say Biden had a think tank? I still have trouble with that. Because I don't know. I can't. Biden has a think tank.
Oh my God! Hang on, Bobby. Hang on. All right, gotta stop all noise in the background. Yeah, Bobby.
Okay, I know you're getting the feedback from me and stuff, so I just want to say real quick for allowing me to plug my general store. Starting tomorrow, there's going to be 15% off all merchandise with the code word Leticia Remauro for SI.
Nice.
Thanks, Bobby.
You're welcome. And with that,
can I ask, Bobby? I wasn't with you guys yet. What do you spell?
General goods and stuff. Workout gear, pet gear, jewelry, watches, cologne.
I assume you're on Facebook?
Yes, I'm on Facebook.
You got to be friends with Leticia. Everybody's friends with Leticia.
I don't know if we're friends or not, but I follow her.
Okay. I'll find you and I'll look at your store. I'm glad to hear that.
That's your.
All right, Bobby, give the name of the page again.
www.dutcherenterprises.com.
There you go. All right. So everybody goes shopping on Bobby's page, Papa Smurf's page. He's giving you 50% off. Spell my name. Oh, we lost him. All right. Spell my name right. Leticia Remauro for SI. All right. Let's see. All right. So this one, Peter, wait. The professor joined us and I haven't been putting up his comments. Professor says, lost our freedom in 1912. Absolutely. And it's all the powers that be versus the people. Well, here we're hopefully we're starting to get him back. Listen to this gentleman. His name is Nicholas Tubolides. Topolades. I know he's Greek. He's testifying in front of Congress about term limits. Watch this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senators, for providing me an opportunity to address this important issue. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are an employer and you've got some problems with your employees. When you hired these employees, they promised they would do exactly what you asked of them. But once they got the job, they became a nightmare. They stopped listening to you and started using the job to line their own pockets. They took the company credit card and racked up more debt than you could afford to pay back. They became so obsessed with keeping their jobs that they forgot to do their jobs. And after all that failure, all that disappointment, and all that incompetence, your employees came to you and said, "We deserve a raise." If you're a reasonable person, that should make your blood boil. And yet, that is exactly what it feels like to be an American taxpayer. The first three words in our Constitution are "we the people." It's written larger than anything else because the framers of that document, the architects of our republic, wanted to remind you at all times who's in charge. We the people. We are your employers, and you have an obligation to listen to us. So I come to you with a message from the American people. We demand term limits for members of Congress. In fact, according to the most recent national polls on the issue, 82% of Americans want term limits. That includes support from 89% of Republicans, 76% of Democrats, and 83% of independent voters.
On one of the deals on the floor in that ridiculous, I'm not going to say ridiculous because I think that it was a good exercise, the House Speaker vote, was that term.
I agree.
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me why. Tell us why.
Well, you have first of all, you have one party who unanimously, without any discussion, puts all their votes for Hakeem Jeffries. Have you heard the guy? He cannot put two words together. He's a moron, and he has no idea what the Constitution is. I would think I have a lot more, both parties suck, but I'm leaning more towards the one where they actually say this guy is not going to be much of a change and we're going to hold out, and they're debating it. That seems to me to be a good idea. I wasn't panicked about it. I don't know what everybody was panicked about. The Democrats put us in this situation in the last 2 years, and they were trying to say that it was bad that they debated. I don't.
Well, they were trying to they were trying to get the narrative going that the Republicans were disorganized and therefore they wouldn't be able to govern, and the people of America were going to pay the price for all these lunatic rights coming in there and making demands. In my opinion, I think it was exactly how it should have went. Rolling back all of this stuff. Especially that one person could bring a motion on the floor to get rid of the speaker. It was always that way. Pelosi, pill popping Pelosi, changed it to make it 5 to protect herself. All that people could vote from home. Pill popping Pelosi changed that too, so that she could have a quorum, even if people weren't present. The fact of the matter is during those 5 days, the members of Congress worked harder than they have in the last 2 years because they had to actually be there every day and they had to work. So I applaud them. I think it was a great idea.
I agree completely. I think it was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, we got one more clip here. Okay. So I don't know if you watch TikTok or Instagram, but there is a rash of young ladies talking about fat phobia. And you'll appreciate this, John, because you are a bit of a gym rat and you like to keep in shape and take care of yourself. And now that the commentary is that if you want to lose weight, you are fat phobic. That if you work out, you are fat phobic. That if you do anything to change your body, tighten it, reduce your calories, you are fat phobic. And when I saw these clips over and over again, I, of course, started laughing wildly, but I had to figure out where it was coming from. And I traced it back to Sabrina Strings, who is going to tell us why losing weight is racist. Watch this.
I decided I would try to trace the transition in the Western world from valuing voluptuous figures to valuing slender ones. And what I found was that it had everything to do with the growth of the slave trade. In the early years of slavery, voluptuous physiques were prized because slavery and the Renaissance were coterminous. And by a couple of centuries on, in the middle of the 18th century, it was very common for race scientists to suggest that, race is not just about skin color. It's also about behavior and appearance. We know that Europeans are the most superior, most disciplined, most rational of all the races. And that's why they are at the top of our racial hierarchies. But we also think that Black people are overly sensuous. They love sex. They love food. And as a result, they are chock full of venereal diseases and they are overweight. So from this, we have the seedlings of our current aesthetic system, which suggests that white, slender bodies, especially women's bodies, are valuable. But fat bodies, and especially fat Black bodies, are worth denigration. It's not just about health. This is clearly about aesthetics. This is about disciplining women often, and it's also about population management. People often feel uncomfortable with fat bodies, and so they do not want people themselves to feel comfortable gaining weight or being fat, especially when those people are women. And that goes back to the legacy of slavery and the ways in which the male gaze is often trying to regulate women's bodies, such that they only have the right to look in particular ways.
Okay. Do you know her? Is she no? Can we get in touch with her?
Listen, I think she's on the same planet Biden's on.
I got a question. Maybe you could ask her if her parents had any children that lived. That's okay. I mean, look, you can pretty much say anything is racist. I mean, look, people are. It's better to be in shape than not. It's better for you physically. Does that mean people should be chastised or embarrassed because they're heavy? I've been heavy at times. I'm dealing with a couple of injuries I've had since last year, and I've gained some weight myself. I just can't, I don't understand why people.
I'll bring him on camera. He wants to come on camera.
They're barking. I don't understand how anybody. She's an academic.
She's an academic, and this is where it's coming from. It's these are
academic must mean something different than what I think it does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's racism. I just don't know how we went from somebody as brilliant as Martin Luther King, who was making us understand we need to judge people by the content of their character, to fat phobia is racist. I don't understand how people like this are even heard. I don't know who would want to listen to them. I mean, you look at people like her, like this guy, Ibrahim Kendi, a child who was vaguely familiar with the concept of logical thinking would dismiss their arguments inside of a few seconds. I don't know why they're given any airtime. I guess I don't know why people think Biden's doing a good job. I don't know.
The thing that gets me crazy is that they're throwing around the word racism for so many things that I think it's watering it down. And everybody who is not a racist individual understands the gravity of that word and the weight of that word. And now it's being flung around. Math is racist. Losing weight is racist. And it's watering it down. If you hear that everything is racist, then if everything is racist, then all of a sudden racism it becomes acceptable because right? I mean, so what's killing me is that these professors I don't know if they think they're trying to do the right thing or they're trying to get attention or what, or is it clickbait? But to turn around and say that somebody who wants to get in shape or who wants to live a more healthy life, or that people are uncomfortable with fat people because they're racist. It's just.
Well, listen, I mean, if I'm sitting next to a sumo wrestler on an airplane seat, that's a different story. I don't, it's, there is a quote that's frequently attributed to Thucydides, but it's actually from a British Army officer. I believe his name was Gordon. And he said, when you separate your thinking man from your fighting man, you end up being governed by fools and defended by cowards. It's all over the internet, but that's honestly one of the things that really, this is from, I don't understand how there could be an entire faction of people who would give that woman any sort of legitimacy. I don't. You know what they need to do? They need to be in a boxing gym or a really hardcore Japanese martial arts dojo, because when you're beating the shit out of each other, you don't care what race the guy is.
That's right.
And you have a genuine love and respect for those people that you're doing that with, or they need to go. I never thought, I mean, God, it is like cancer. It is infecting everything. You're fat. If
you want to lose weight, you're fat phobic and therefore racist.
That's.
And Peter says racism is actually racialism, which is truly a real word, and racism, which is not. And you get the last word, Professor, on this. Well, we went over by about 7 minutes. I want to thank Bobby Dutcher for being on the show with us today, for filling in for John while he was fighting with Verizon. And please, everybody, go to Bobby's website. Bobby, type in your website name here so that everybody sees it. Starting tomorrow, you get 15% off if you put in Leticia Remauro, Remauro. I want to thank John Curley, boy genius and author extraordinaire, for being with us.
Thank you. I do want to say one last thing. You ever see The Girl Hunters with Mickey Spillane?
I haven't.
Mickey Spillane actually played Mike Hammer in a movie called The Girl Hunters. And I just want to say for everybody there that I could do a better job with Creed than Mickey Spillane did with Mike Hammer. And we're looking to, some people and I are looking to put together a production company, and maybe that'll be a reality.
Wow, I love it.
Well, you have all these high society friends, Leticia. We'll be hitting you up for all kinds of coins. So.
I'm sure, and I'll be happy. Hi, Lorraine Polly. Have a great evening. Ralph, see you next week. Bobby.
Thank you, guys. And Harriet Rankin from way out west, my friend, popped in. Hi, Harriet. She's one of Andrew's people. She's a good girl. Thank you, everybody, for popping in.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks again, John, for
my pleasure. Anytime. Tell Jen I'm looking for her job now.
There you go.